I've since then been to Pakistan, because I thought I'd better have a look. I've been to the Afghan front, because I thought I ought to. I've been to Kashmir, where I think the next war will be if we're not careful about it. And I've come to the following conclusion. Mr. Bin-Laden made an absolutely horrific mistake when he did what he did. It's horrific in every other sense too, obviously, as I've just said. But what he has done is now called for a holy war against the Jews, against the Christians, against, naturally, the secular world, people like myself, against quite a lot of other Muslims, and now, not many people notice this, against Hinduism as well. In other words, he's just made 1 billion enemies in India. Furthermore, by doing what he did, he derailed something that was happening in Pakistan, a very horrible thing that was happening there. Sorry to keep using the word horrible, but I would say, quite soberly, that within a year, maybe less, if the World Trade Center had not been destroyed and the other atrocities in Washington and Pennsylvania had not occurred, the Taliban and its allies, including Al-Qaeda, would have taken over Pakistan. Pakistan was being very rapidly Talibanized through its military oligarchy and the religious parties and Muslim jihad groups it's been sponsoring. They won't get hold of the Pakistani state now. They won't. And they won't get hold of its nuclear weapons, which they were hoping to do. And you hear all the time that there's a lot of Muslim opinion that favors Mr. Bin-Laden and thinks of him as a hero. But what can he do for them? They can't go and join him in his cave, even if they want to. They can't go back to the 15th century with him or live in the desert with him either. What he demands of them is literally impossible. So there's absolutely no chance that he can win. I mean, you can exclude the possibility of the victory of evil. It cannot happen. And I think it might be, we might make some quite good friends in the battle against it. I would particularly recommend making a friend of the secular pluralist democracy of India, which has long been far too low on the United States list of countries to be well connected with. I think look forward very much to cooperating with India and repudiating tribalism, communalism, as the Indians call religious sectarianism. And so, you know, I get up every morning thinking, what can I do today to join the battle for, and extend the battle for, secular pluralist democracy and to inconvenience and humiliate its foes.
Our guest, Christopher Hitchens, who's also a contributing editor for this publication, Vanity Fair. This is what the December issue looks like. And inside he writes, for Patriot Dreams, based on what the caller just brought up. We'll get a call from Dublin, Ireland. Go ahead, please.
Hello, I'd like to say to Mr. Hitchens I enjoy his work very much.
That's very kind of you, thank you.
Thanks very much. I was wondering how you look on Mr. Clinton's, President Clinton's administration being somewhat asleep at the wheel with regard to Bin Laden. I mean, it wasn't the first time Bin Laden has struck.
No, indeed.
What do you think was his fault?
Well, I can refer you to a chapter in my book about Mr. Clinton, which the book is called No One Left to Lie To, in case you wonder what I think about him in general. What I think about him in particular in this chapter, which is called Clinton's War Crimes, is that he did one of the worst things any president has ever done. He used American cruise missiles in a covert and surreptitious decision that was taken against the advice of most of his Joint Chiefs and his intelligence chiefs and diplomats, ostensibly to bomb a terrorist facility, as they call it, in Sudan, but actually in order to try and fool around with public opinion on the day that Monica Lewinsky was going back to the grand jury. It was, as we say in Washington, a wag the dog moment. He picked a target, excuse me, he picked a target which he knew was not a military facility, that was actually a factory making most of the pharmaceuticals and medicines for Sudan, gravely damaging the fabric of that society. He shot another couple of missiles into what he thought was Afghanistan. In fact, one of them landed in Pakistan, accidentally revealing the connection between the Pakistani army and Bin Laden, because the missiles killed a couple of Pakistani officers who had no business being in a Bin Laden camp, but were training infiltrators for Kashmir. And having made a complete fool of himself, having been exposed before the United Nations as having hit the wrong target for the wrong reasons in a shady week where he was trying to avoid impeachment, he dropped the subject of Bin Laden altogether.